Okay, recording this video on Thursday, the 11th of February 2021, just coming up to 4:48 p.m. Chicago time. Do hope you are doing well. So let's try and make this a regular thing with a midweek chart review. Last week did this on the Wednesday. This week left it an extra day to let the cycles play out a little bit because I think things are more obvious after Thursday's trade in terms of cycles. But going to be reviewing the Bitcoin charts and then the Forex charts, dollar index, and then Euro, Japanese yen, Aussie, Canadian dollar, and also equities with the E-mini, gold, silver, sugar, and coffee. And I think this is an important day. You know, Thursday into Friday is going to be really important. Certainly on Bitcoin, we've had such a fantastic run up. Time for me to kind of take profits, and I'll show you why I've taken profits on this chart. So this is a 10,000 tip bar chart of Bitcoin. The one I find most easiest to look at is this BTC USD on a tip bar chart. But as I've said before, there are three different ways of plotting Bitcoin. The indicators I've got are the better indicators. On the right hand side, we've got better sine wave here below the price bars, calculating the cyclical activity in three different time frames. That allows us to plot support and resistance lines in three different time frames on the price bars themselves, and breaks of those support and resistance give us uptrends and downtrends. On the left-hand side, everything to do with volume, got better momentum below the price bars, and then on the price bars themselves, we've got better Pro-Am, which uses the average trade size, which is a dynamic calculation. There's no kind of fixed levels there. A dynamic calculation of the average trade size to show where professionals and amateurs are active. Professionals are blue bars, amateurs are yellow bars. So for me, what was important on this chart, on this lower time frame chart, is that we had, I was saying, you know, play professional to professional bars. Last time around, I was saying we had a setup for Bitcoin to go long just above $30,000 because we had a whole bunch of blue professional bars kind of come in here at 30 bucks, 30,000. So they stepped in. We after we'd had exhaustion sell. A little bullish divergence pattern here right on the zero line. We went for a little bit of a test. Bang, as soon as we broke through that, we're in a confirmed uptrend. Confirmed uptrend because we got the background printed red, which means the price bars and the volume indicators are both saying that the activity is a strong uptrend. But in the last few days, what we've had is the mirror image. It's an exhaustion buy pattern. So all the volume that was getting in on the exhaustion sell is getting out on the exhaustion buy. We had the blue professional bars start to come in. Here we go here, taking profits above 44, 46. And then we've gone and we've tested higher. And on the price indicators here with better sine wave, we've got I talk about the end of trends rippling through the time frames. So we've got pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame, and then pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame. This has got to go make pullback to end of trend on the highest time frame, but it requires us to have a little bit of a sell-off, and for these two lines, these thick lines on the highest time frame, to come together to signal that support in the highest time frame, where we'll go for that final kind of move. But we are about to put in we put in bearish divergence on this chart here, on this lower time frame chart, and so all of that on the low time frame is saying, you know, we're starting to top out here. We could have another leg in this, you know, support to resistance on this tip bar chart in the highest time frame, but for the time being, we're starting to kind of roll over. Then when you go up a time frame to daily charts, this is what I'm interested in. So here we go on the daily charts. We put in pullback to end of trend. There we go. So that's on almost all three charts. We got it on the dollar BRTI, which is the other way of tracking Bitcoin here, pullback to end of trend. And then the futures contract at BTC. Here we've not put it in yet. This was a little bit late. The other charts plotted that pullback level at the 30,000 kind of coming in here, but it's about to go off the next kind of weak bar that we have. We'll have a pullback to end of trend. You can see there the pullback levels came in. This was the sweetest one here, BTC USD, pullback to end of trend. So with that pattern cyclically in terms of price, just reaching a maximum, a left shoulder, if you like, on all these higher time frame charts, all of these we've got to go pullback to end of trend on the intermediate and the highest time frame because we're above resistance there on those other time frames. So all I'm saying is we've just reached temporarily a little bit of a left shoulder. Here we've got blue professional bars kind of come in. We've got exhaustion patterns on the futures contract. Again, as I've said before, you can't get a single instrument to plot where I'm happy with the way the indicators work on one individual instrument. So I'm always looking at 3 instruments side by side, because one's given me a good professional activity and exhaustion patterns, but the cyclical activity isn't quite right. Its cyclical activity is more right on this chart, but we don't have an exhaustion pattern and so on. So I'm triangulating a little bit between the 3 different instruments that I'm plotting here. But anyway, so it was time to take profits on a small part of my portfolio, another 5% out on that, plus took profits on 100% of my ADA. So ADA is the cryptocurrency. It's an altcoin that's associated with the Cardano platform, which has had a quite good press over the last couple of months, and that's reflected in a huge rise in that price. Been a real nice one for me. So we're taking profits there on a little bit of the cryptos, but yeah, let's see over the next couple of days what happens. It's certainly left shoulder looking, but we don't have anything more than some exhaustion patterns and blue professional bars going on. No amateurs kind of getting wrong-footed these highs or anything like that. So there we go, cryptos. Dollar index. Now, last time I reviewed this chart, said I'm long dollar index, and I was looking for maybe some weakness that I'd have to sit through. Well, I couldn't sit through it. We came back, I brought my stop up to break even, so out at break even, and I wasn't able to kind of sit through, and I'm glad I kind of didn't sit through the volatility that we've had. But you can see the professionals on this tick bar chart, 200 tick bar chart of dollar index at DX. They got in at the lows here, they got on this stair-step trade. You know, any weakness we had, blue professional bars came in, a little bit of weakness, blue professional bars, but we had Rambo patterns here. So the move up to 91.50 was being led by the amateurs, kind of pushing up this way. So we knew it was weak. It goes the other way, and here they are getting stopped out on the other side of that trade. So, but I still think this one is good for the longer term. When I look at my long-term charts, I think this is an important turning point. So I'm looking for the next place in. It didn't just bounce off this support level. It's triggered it temporarily to flip over, but let's wait and see. Cyclically, what have we got to do? We've got to go make a a loop down at some point on the cycles. We're weak at the moment, so maybe we'll get held at this point. You know, this is sometimes a good setup where we break a support level on the lowest time frame and get caught by a support level on the next highest time frame. Let's see with tomorrow's activity with equities, because dollar index and equities at the moment are moving kind of counter. So when equities are strong, dollar index is weak, and vice versa. And if we get weakness in equities, then we could have a bounce in dollar index, and this could be an important turning point. But anyway, that's what kind of pushed me out of this trade, was just moving through my stop. And it's the mirror picture here on the euro. With the euro, what we had is V reversal with blue professional bars. So I was a little bit uncomfortable with this kind of move down. It was being led by the amateurs, and then the professionals stepped in with blue professional bars down here at 120, and then they forced it the way up, and we broke through our trailing stop. Bang. So that's a V reversals, professionals buying it on the way down and buying it on the way up, and it just reverses and go the other way. So cyclically, you know, we're at an important kind of point. Let's see if this kind of continues through or just rolls over, and we can have continued weakness in the euro. Japanese yen was a weak kind of bounce off these bottoms. We definitely had one blue professional bar kind of step in here, and we've kind of come back. That's not like a whole family of blue professional bars saying that's the buy of a lifetime in Japanese yen, kind of buy. So it's kind of weak on the way back here. We'll have to wait and see. But Aussie dollar and Canadian dollar. So the Aussie dollar, you know, we kind of maxed out. It's been up here at 78. We broke into weakness, and at this point here, we kind of moved back up to an under the lip kind of setup here. So this little signal there is that's an under the lip trade. We've temporarily busted up through that lip, if you like, and kind of triggered it into some strength, but it's weak with amateur up bars and so on. So tomorrow's activity is going to be absolutely key. So let's see, we've got another little overshoot here, an overshoot of resistance coming up to resistance in the next highest time frame. So we've temporarily done this on the reverse, but you know, if with tomorrow's activity this kind of comes off and comes back down below the lip, then potentially that's a really important top in Aussie dollar. Canadian dollar, a little bit clearer. There's an under the lip kind of signal there. So same pattern I was talking about last week. We break through the trailing stop on Better Pro-Am. We move back up with amateur up bars, so we know it's weak at that point. And if we just roll around and just kind of trade the other way through these lows, we got a definite kind of change in trend. And all of these are tick bar charts, so they're kind of on the low time frame. You can see similar setups with volume patterns and trailing stops on the daily charts. And so if we do get this right in terms of a major kind of change in the dollar index that could run for several months, this would be really nice. So let's just kind of wait and see. The other reason why I think tomorrow is going to be important is cyclically on the 15-minute chart. We're kind of coming up to an important turn. So the last sequence up on the 15-minute chart, exactly the same indicators. We had a bottom being made here, 3,700 blue professional bars kind of step in, and we just raced to the upside here. But it's weak, when you look at the 15-minute or the 45-minute chart, all of this activity has been driven by the amateurs at these highs. We've had some blue professional bars here, so 38.78 is an absolutely critical level. But what I'm interested in is cyclically, we're also reaching some kind of important point, and again talking about the end of trend signals rippling through the time frames. So pull back to end of trend on the lowest time frame, pull back to end of trend with today's activity on the intermediate time frame, all syncing up with resistance on the highest time frame. So this 38.84 level, absolutely key. It's key on the cycles. 78.25 is key on Better Pro-Am. Let's see if we get a breakthrough there. If we do that, that would mean a whole bunch of charts will all of a sudden start rolling together. So the dollar index would strengthen, and all the risk-on trades like Aussie Dollar, Canadian dollar, and so on would weaken, and that would tend to suggest this is a really important kind of turning point. Gold and silver, actually a little bit at odds, with one of them showing potential strength and the other one showing potential weakness. Here's gold. So gold, 4,000 tip bar chart here. We have this huge sell-off. Here's this little under the lip trade here, where we break, we come back up, driven by the amateurs up, amateurs down, bang, under the lip trade, sols off. Blue professional bars got out here, and they got in here with an exhaustion sell bullish divergence. The move is being led by the amateurs, getting too excited with Rambo patterns here. So the amateurs are just buying this breakout. Instead of getting involved kind of early on in the piece, they're waiting, and then finally they can't stand it anymore, so they buy gold at this point. No, goes a few dollars past their entry point, and then we weaken quite a lot from their entry point. But what's happened is nice exhaustion pattern here with blue professional bars. That potentially is a stair-step trade in gold, so that we bottomed, they've stepped back in at that point, and we're going to have some strength in gold. Reverse kind of pattern though for silver, and it's not unusual. I mean, we would ideally like the precious metals to kind of trade in sync, but they don't. They do run out of sync. So I'm not that you could be long gold and short silver at any time. I don't think there's a problem with that. Not for the long term, but for a medium term swing trade, I think that's an okay trade. So with silver, what we had, exhaustion sell, blue professional bars at the low, testing down here. Then the professionals got out at that. We were talking about this is the short squeeze going on here, where they forced the market to look at back up at 30 up here, but we've come down, tested back up to 28, and we're bouncing off there with amateur bars. That's an under the lip kind of trade. So any weakness below these supports at $27 on silver would show that that's going to trend a little bit further on the downside until we see blue professional bars that mirror the blue professional bars that we're getting out at 29. So let's wait and see. I'll be wrong if it trades through 27.85 there, 27.95 here. So if we start breaking up through those levels, then silver's going to maybe mirror gold for some move to the upside. But at the moment, that doesn't look quite right. It's almost like the inverse of the gold chart. Sugar, just quickly on sugar, because I mentioned it last week with a potential under the lip trade here where we kind of have amateur bars. And I said a break of 16 on the way down would signal that potentially this is a short trade. Well, it did break the 16 here, but it immediately bounced. So it bounced above, triggered everything on the way up. But it's just a similar pattern to that rollover, amateur up bars, amateur down bars. So let's see, coming back through 16 on sugar would would signal the same kind of trade, a reversal of the trend and a downtrend in sugar. But it made a false kind of breakout there and pushed everybody their limits with this break up to $17. And lastly, coffee. So coffee here's under the lip, amateur up bars, amateur down bars into that lip, and we're back down at 122. So I like coffee kind of for a long-term chart, but it's clearly just doesn't want to do it for the time being. So we break through this 22 level, and we could have some a real little runner in coffee. So there we go. Thursday into Friday is going to be really interesting. Let's see if on the E-mini these cycles really kind of play out nicely, and we start breaking 3880s, 3860s, and so on. And that could mean that just for the time being, we've had some profit taking happen at those highs. We're just rolling over to have some weakness. So kind of due. I think the move on the upside's got a little bit exhausted. Beginning of the week, certainly we kind of ran out of volume with very little, volume kind of trading to the upside and all these Rambo patterns here. But anyway, so I'm wittering on a little bit. Let's see what happens on Thursday into Friday.